Hey everybody, I'm Corey. I don't claim to be an expert on what I'm about to go through, but I've been taught for the past 15 or so years by, or 20 years by a man that's been doing it for a very long time and really taught me how to do brisket well. I live here in Texas, big green egg. I've done the same technique roughly, has been primarily offset, kind of in the Aaron Franklin school of thought. I've spent our idea of the perfect vacation when my kids were growing up was going to Lockhart, Texas, going to Kreitz, Smitty's, and then Black's, and then go to the side of Black's, take our half pound of each brisket and sausage and whatever else, and then we do what was called the trifecta, and then we do a Pepsi challenge. So I've spent a lot of time trying to replicate what Central Texas has been doing for 50 plus years. So with that said, I want to kind of turn it over to what I do here with the big green egg. You saw that I chunked up all my hickory chunks into roughly maybe about an inch and a half, kind of chunking up in roughly that size into smaller bites. We don't want anything too big. That's about as big as we want to get. All right, so the next thing I do is I take out my kick ash basket and I take all of my old charcoal and I take it and move it off to the side. I'm only going to work with fresh charcoal, and I know this looks really bad right now. It's because I flipped over the bucket, but we'll go ahead and move this out of the way. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the large chunks like this, and we're going to create air at the bottom. This is how you keep it running all night long with good airflow and not having to stoke it too much. And I'll go ahead and do this time lapse. All right, so right now I've got my brisket. I've got my fire ready to go. I just need to add the cubes, pull this off, put my diverters on. I run a ProZone setup that uses these guys as opposed to a plate setter. But before I start any brisket, and this is about a 14 pounder right here, 15 pounder, the first thing I do is make sure that it's gonna fit. Make sure that before I do anything else, oh, about to lose my light, that it's actually going to fit and close. Otherwise, I'll take out my rack and roll it over or put something underneath it to kind of create some something that allows it to fit. We'll go into cleaning and trimming in just a minute, but right now, all I have to do in the morning is pull the grates, put the starter cubes in, put my diverters in after I've gone through my steps of getting my fire together, which is generally about 5 minutes wide open, and then close it to my daisy wheel to, daisy wheel wide open, add the daisy wheel, and then go down to about 2 fingers on the bottom vent, and then bring it down to temperature. When I get to about 150 degrees, that's when I'll set that down to about 1 finger on the bottom, and then about half up on the daisy wheel, and then play with it from there. So, the number one thing you got to do is choose the brisket the right way. There's some argument to be made left side, right side, because the cow lays on this, and if it's a left-handed cow, and if it plays spades on Tuesdays and drops its two, then that's the right answer. I don't know about all that, but what I do know is that the smaller the brisket, generally the younger the cow, generally the more tender it is. But the way you know for sure is you take your packer, always a packer, never just a flat, and what you want to do is you want to roll it over your arm. You want to make sure that sucker rolls over, okay? You can check the decal side, roll it the other way. Make sure my wife picked this one out. She's gotten really good at being able to pick these out. This one has a little bit of hard fat right here, but if you'll notice it's on the outside, we're gonna trim this out right here. But the rest of the meat, when you take it and you go sideways, it's nice and loose. So despite having some hard fat that we'll trim out, we've got a nice tender brisket to start with. And bear in mind, this is just this is a Kroger special, $2.49 a pound, or it might have even been cheaper than that. So you'll see, we'll do trimming next. All right, so trimming. So you should really watch the way that some of these pros do it. I'm not as good as others. I won't make any allusions to the fact that I've ripped off all their technique. But essentially what I'm trying to do is I want to leave about a 1/2 inch on the flat, maybe a little bit more. I'm not taking off a whole lot of it. And then on deckle, the point, whatever you want to call it, fat end, I'm going to take off all this thick, hard stuff. There's some talk about taking some of the rounding off the points. I do that as well, because anything pointy is going to end up scorching. Now, other places that are butcher shops will end up turning that into other cuts of meat, adding it to ground beef, whatnot. For us, I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I might make burned ends. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, so at this point, I've trimmed it. I've cut off some of my edges. You didn't get to see all of the trimming. There's a handful of things I did after I stopped the last video. But I rounded off those corners a little bit, took off a little bit more. But I mean, overall, what you're trying to do is just kind of get it a nice layer of fat, but not too much. Get off any sharp points and get that super hard fat. And what you didn't see me do is I carved it out, and I'll carve it out, and then I'll just kind of flatten it back up. I am going to be putting this onto the egg fat side down. Again, another arguable point, when I was doing offset smokers, I always did it fat side up, let it simmer in the meat, but since the heat's going from the bottom, we'll render some of that off. So I'm going to start with my seasoning on the bottom. I'm doing a very simple one here. I'm just doing salt, pepper, and garlic. So kosher salt, nothing special, whole lot of it. Usually I do this differently, but I'm doing it for the camera, but you get the idea. I'll go ahead and finish this offline, and then the pepper, liberal. The pepper is what gives you the bark because it soaks up so much of the moisture. I have patted this down as well with a paper towel. So that's also super important. And then I'm gonna set it tonight and then put it on the smoker in the morning. So this brisket is showing 200 degrees right now, 201 degrees, but this is the way you check to make sure that it's good. That probes like butter. That probes like butter. So this sucker's good to go. He's ready to pull out. I'm gonna put him in this cooler. I'll go over that in just a minute. Okay, we're gonna pull this brisket out. We've got it probed nicely and it's ready to go. So I'm gonna put on my heat-proof gloves right here. I know some people do the peach paper thing during, and I would, but in this case, I didn't feel like it was really necessary. I wasn't running a deep smoke. So. Side. And this guy, flip him over. Drop them into a cooler, freshly cleaned cooler. It's got a little bit of foil on the inside of it right now. Keep it clean. Tuck it tightly. And take a towel right up the top. And then in a couple hours, we're gonna have dinner. All right, everybody, it's now about 3 hours later. I got my cooler here. We're gonna go and set this off to the side. Take the towel. It smells lovely. My dog is sitting here waiting for me to drop something. Take this. Take this guy. boy. Man, oh man. This is beautiful. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off the flat. Oh man, I'm just gonna rest my knife on the flat on me. I wish I could show this to you from there. It is absolutely perfect. Just as expected, nice bark on it, still a little crunchy. Good to go.